Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your astrology forecast for Friday, March 15th of 2024. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful week so far, and hopefully you are looking forward to the weekend. Let's go ahead and hop into these astrological transits so we can see how you can be better prepared to navigate these celestial energies. So, the main thing that we have going on today, of course, is that we do have that moon entering into Gemini, which means that it's going to square all of this Pisces energy. By the time that you guys watch this, it would have already squared Venus. It's going to square Saturn today. And of course, we are building up to that Sunday, which is going to be the major Sun Neptune conjunction with the moon in square to it. And then we'll see the moon, we'll see her shift into Cancer. So it doesn't really seem like there's going to be a whole lot going on today, but still adds its fair amount of spice. That is for sure. So let's go ahead and bring up the chart itself. So I have this set, of course, for 8:57 a.m. here in the East Coast. We do have that moon at 5 degrees of Gemini coming off of the square to Venus, of course. Now, of course, you could go into that a little bit. I mean, like I said, it's going to be an aspect that most people aren't going to be awake for, or they're not that awake for. Maybe they just woke up and stuff like that. So we got to remember this Venus, of course, here. It does like to be in Pisces. It's exalted. And then we have a moon in Gemini that's being, disposited by a Mercury in Aries. It's getting closer to the North Node in Chiron. So I wouldn't say that this moon isn't strong, but I would say that this Venus is definitely much stronger. So I feel like with a square like this, we're definitely wanting to, relate to people in many ways, but, maybe the dream is off. Maybe, we're a little bit more concerned about, the beauty that, Venus likes to have in Pisces, likes to experience in Pisces, about experiencing the dream. It's very much so like that kind of slapsticky kind of, you know, almost like romantic kind of dream that Venus really appreciates in Pisces, but Saturn is there. So it's going to be a little bit different. At least for like this first little bit of Venus in Pisces, it can really enjoy itself. But once it hits Saturn, things are going to definitely take an interesting turn. I think it'll be like an upgrade for Venus, but it's almost going to be like she's like graduating from princess to queen. Like that's kind of how this is all going. Right now, Venus is in her princess era, right? So with the moon that's going to be in square to Venus, if you will, this moon in Gemini, usually the moon in Gemini brings about a bit of a lighter energy. It's a little bit more outgoing, it's a little bit more carefree, but we have to consider that this moon is out of bounds. This moon is out of bounds, and I'll go ahead and show you guys that how out of bounds that this moon is. The moon, as you can see here, is 25 degrees north in declination. So this moon is out of bounds. So that means that, and the moon it's at +1, whereas Venus is at +14. So that's kind of the interesting thing, is that you have all of the benefic, more positive aligned planets, +14, +6, even the moon with +1, but everything else is -5, right? So that's the interesting thing about this sort of day. This Venus is very, very strong, but we also have to consider that Neptune is very strong. Being that it's in his home sign, I'd argue that it's probably one of the strongest planets right now. And this moon it's doing all right, but it's out of bounds, meaning that its energy is going to be a bit more exaggerated and hyperbolic. So this is going to be a day, especially with the moon in Gemini, where people are just going to be reflecting emotions back and forth. You know, the kind of energy and vibe that people give is generally just going to be reflected back to people. And depending upon how well you deal with the Venus and Pisces, especially for like this first little decade, this can determine whether or not, I could definitely see this as people finding it difficult to relate to other people. I could find this as even maybe issues of jealousy maybe coming up here, even though Mars isn't really as involved with this, because I would say Mars is more jealousy, but with the Venus in Pisces, and then you have the moon here. You got to remember, Venus is also money in many ways. She deals also with like physical reality, and of course with like this is like beauty too, being here in Pisces. This can definitely bring up issues of jealousy when it comes to looking at other people and seeing maybe the life that they have, the life that they have kind of accumulated and have like lived to this point, and we may be looking at our own lives and comparing ourselves to other people, and there could be some bouts of potential jealousy here with that. So I would just say to be cautious of that with the moon in Gemini. Now we are going to see, of course, hold on, let me X out of this one, and then let me go ahead and bring back the other one. So I just wanted to show you guys the scores for each of the planets. So we're going to see, of course, here as the day continues, we're going to see that moon. It's going to make a sextile over to Mercury as it's beginning to square over to Saturn. Now, this is an interesting one. Mercury does rule where Gemini is. So there's an interesting element here. Now, the moon doesn't obviously rule Aries. So I would say that Mercury kind of has a bit of a leg up here, especially considering the fact that this moon is out of bounds. And even at this point, Mercury is still not very strong as far as the score goes. It's still at -5, where the moon is at +1. So even though this Mercury is not necessarily doing the best, at the very least, it can understand where the moon is coming from. So that's why I mentioned that the first part of the day, there may be weird things where we're comparing ourselves to other people and what they have, you know, and we may see, and you gotta remember, Pisces is like the dream. It's also an illusion. So it's like a lot of times the way that we perceive something, it may not exactly be that thing. So I think with the moon sextiling Mercury, it can give us a little bit more clarity, a little bit more insight, especially if you actually choose to reach out to these people that you may be jealous of, or just maybe you gain some valuable insight that, maybe the grass isn't always greener. We can't just focus on what other people have. We got to be able to focus on what we're doing in our own life. I think with this moon sextile Gemini, it'll provide like a nice little opportunity for us to see, where our value is and what we're able to contribute. What narratives are we telling ourselves? What are we, how are we expressing our, raw authentic self? And really more focus and hone in on that, because that's really what's more important here. Especially considering the fact that that moon is going to square Saturn like immediately afterwards. And that's pretty much going to be like the big deal of the day leading up to that we're going to be kind of building up to is the square with Saturn. And this moon, it said it's doing okay in Gemini, but not really the best. And because it's being disposited by a Mercury that's not necessarily in the best spot right now. And then, of course, it's going to make this aspect to Saturn, which is in Pisces. And, you know, this Saturn is definitely going to be a lesson here. It's going to be a lesson that, if you do find yourself to be comparing yourself to others today a lot more, you have to kind of ask yourself, what was your role in this? This is about accepting the responsibility and having a little bit of personal accountability when it comes to your role in where you are right now. And I think that a day like today could be easy to kind of point fingers and to kind of like be jealous of other people and to sort of be like, well, I kind of wish I had what they had and blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff. And everyone's always comparing themselves. I just spent earlier today, I was just like going through Reddit, and there was this thread that was talking about what generation of millennials has it worse right now. And yeah, some people are saying that it's like the late 80s babies had it worse. Some people are saying that it's like the 91, 92 kids are having it the worst. Some people, and it's some people are saying it was like the 85, 86 kids having it the worst, and everyone was providing like their different experience on things and who has it the worst right now economically and blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of reading through all of it, and everyone has different perspectives. some people said that the 91, 92 kids are born like in like a nice golden era, a nice spot. And if I look, I'm a 91 kid, and if I look out at my generation, I would say that like that's probably half true. I think a lot of my classmates from back then are doing very well for themselves, and I think a lot of us are kind of treading water. Like I don't think we're necessarily doing terrible. We're not. We may not be exactly where we thought we were going to be financially, but I think it really just comes down to, your personal experience and your actions that you have taken, the karma that you built. So we have to realize our role in this, and that we can't really just blame anybody. And we're also going to is also going to come down to is that you can't, there's no like definitive this, at least in that example, there's no definitive this group of people had it worse. Like this, there's always going to be some nuance. There's always going to be some gray area. And I think a day like today can give us an opportunity to have that insight to seeing that there is some gray area and it's not always just black and white, because Saturn is all about definition in many ways. It's in Pisces. So there is no definition here. That, and with this moon that's going to be squaring Saturn, it's going to challenge our perceptions in many ways on the definitions of life, the definitions of by this age you need to have this thing, and by this age you need to have this thing, and by this age you need to have this thing done. It's going to challenge that greatly, And I think once Venus reaches Saturn, it's going to be another challenge to that, because we haven't seen a Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces since the 1990s, like the early, like the what, like 94. Actually, no, by that time, actually, Saturn was actually at 0 degrees of Pisces, and Venus was at 5 degrees, and it was conjunct to Mercury retrograde at 5 degrees. And I'm pretty sure Saturn ingressed into Pisces after Venus did. And so let me just check that just to be sure. Make sure that I'm not. Let's see. Boom. All right. So let's see. Let's see, Venus. I have 95 here. So we had, hold on, let me go back to 94, because I think that's really, so we had 93 here. Let me move this forward to like months, because you see Saturn was there in Aquarius. So we move this forward, because let's see, Saturn was retrograde in Aquarius, and then Venus caught up to Saturn, right? So yeah, I think, man, it looks like it was 1994 was the last time that we even saw this. If we go back a month, you see Saturn there at 28 degrees, Venus here at 25. Let's switch it to weeks. Venus at 4, Venus at 12. Oh, Saturn hit 0 degrees. Saturn did hit 0 degrees. So it was 1994 was the last time that we could have saw a Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces. Well, it was the first at that time, I guess. So if we want to get like technical, then the last time that we actually saw it at the end of Saturn's cycle in Pisces, we'd have to check that, I guess. Which the end of that cycle, see, I'm going by months. I need to go by years. Let's see. Bam. So this would have been towards the end of the cycle of Saturn and Pisces. So you would have saw Venus conjunct Saturn, and then by the time, so Saturn would have moved out of Pisces by that point. So yeah, it looks like it was 95 essentially. The 95 going into 96. So yeah, you saw the Venus conjunct Pisces in 96, and then Venus moved forward, Saturn ingressed into Aries, and it retrograded. Did it retrograde all the way back into Pisces? It did not retrograde all the way back into Pisces. It looks like it stopped at 0 degrees. So yeah, the last time that we saw this was 1996. So it's been a while since we've seen this, right? So it's been a while since Venus has passed over Saturn in that aspect. And this in many ways is sort of like it's like a changing of the guard. It's like the appointment of a new queen, if you will. It's like a graduation in many ways, and kind of doesn't surprise me with all the whole stuff going on with the royal family overseas and stuff. The the whole UK, Kate Middleton, all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go really into that, but it just doesn't surprise me. But we're building up to that. We're building up to Venus conjunct Saturn and the Sun conjunct Neptune, and that's kind of what this whole week has been about, is the build up to that energy, and then the way that we kind of feel and relate to these sort of things. So, like I said, with the day culminating with this Moon Saturn square, it's going to definitely challenge our perceptions on, you know, our life, our karma, how we spent our time, if you will. And we have to just like, this is where, don't get too down on yourself if you feel like you've wasted time. Don't get too down on yourself if you feel like you could have done more. It's going to be a very reflective kind of day. You know what I mean? So I say just enjoy the day, take advantage of the opportunities that come forward to you, realize that, it's never too late. You can always do more. You can always go for your dreams. You can always pursue those projects, those passion projects. You can always do it. And yes, does it require a little bit more effort right now? Yeah. And we have to dig a little bit deeper right now to find that extra reserve, to find that extra gear, but it's there. There's always an extra gear. We don't even realize it. There's always an extra gear. Like no matter how many times you fall down or you get down on yourself, there's always an extra gear, and you can always, get to where you need to go. And there's an element of trust here too. We got to trust that the universe is going to bring us the right people in the right situations to help us to get to that place. But we have to be open to receiving those messages. So let's go ahead and hop into the cards. All right, give this deck a good shuffle. And let's see what we got. I have the Two of Swords in reverse. This is actually really positive. This means that you can break the stalemate. Whatever stalemate that you have in your mind today, and it's perfect because the moon is in Gemini, and you see the moon back there too. I don't know if this is actually the moon in Gemini card, but it definitely gives me that vibe. This definitely gives me a moon and Gemini vibe, square Venus, square Saturn today, and sextile Mercury. This is about getting out of your own way and realizing that your mind is very powerful. Your mind is actually very powerful. And, you know, you can, if you alter your perceptions on this, you realize that you're not as stuck as you think you are. It may feel that way, it may seem that way, but you're not as stuck as you think you are. I had that followed by the Six of Wands. This is beautiful. It's time for you to get up on your horse and to have the victory, to realize your potential, and to see your victories. I think this is a day where we have to be able to see our victories. List out write out your wins today. You can get so focused on your losses, but write out your wins, right? And wins don't have to be like I made $100,000 today, right? Sometimes your wins are, I cooked the home. I cooked a meal at home for the first time in like 3 days. It could be I did the laundry and I actually did it all in one day. That could be a win. I know it sounds stupid, but that could seriously be a win. So this is the day about realizing our wins and realizing that, if we list those out and we tell ourselves those wins, it's going to make us feel better. It's going to make us feel positive. And, we're not going to feel like we're just stuck in a place and there's like a stalemate, so this is the day that we kind of get out of that energy, so realize the positives, realize the wins that you have in your life, stack those wins, eat those W's. That's what's going to be most important today. We have, for this Answer a Simple Oracle, we got this card earlier. We got Reclaim Your Arts again. Reclaim your art. Yeah, so definitely a day to kind of get back on. If there's like a passion project or a hobby that you have that you've been really wanting to get back into today. Just do a little bit. You don't have to do the whole thing. You don't have to swim a whole lap in the pool. Maybe you just dip your toes in the water. Maybe you splash around a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's what a lot of people are missing. They're missing that passion project in their life, that hobby that, really, kind of makes them feel like a kid again. And I think, that's what we need more than ever right now to help us get going. That's probably the extra gear that we're looking for. So reclaiming your art today, realizing that you're not stuck, and to stack those wins. See the wins in your life. See the things that you have to be grateful for. And I promise you, you'll make it through this. That's going to do it for your astrology forecast today. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. If you'd like to have a personal reading with me, beloved, you can follow the link in the description below to my website, jphoenix.com. And as always, y'all take care, stay blessed, have a wonderful Friday. I will see you all on the next astrology forecast. Peace.